CEO and founder, and we started Health Connections because there were people that I realized were in the service for working in international settings and working in the public health field that did not have access to healthcare. And it wasn't easy access if they did access, and it usually was emergency access when they did get it. So they didn't get a fair shake often in getting a good relationship with healthcare. So what I plan on doing is really changing the relationship that people have with healthcare. And that means that we have to be transparent in healthcare to make sure that people understand what they're doing, what they're signing up for, what's happening and not happening, and how to make it work for them. So I do a lot of education about healthcare, and my background is in African American studies, clinical laboratory sciences, international public health, and microbiology. So it's a lot of things. And my parents were really like, where you landed? What's going on? And finally, when COVID hit, it all came together, actually. And it realized, now I had already started clinic in 2015, but by the time COVID hit, we filled so many gaps in the delivery of healthcare that other people couldn't fill. Government couldn't do it. They were too tight. Bigger organizations, not nimble. We knew the community because the community came to us and said, hey, this is what we need. And we always ask, and they tell us. So that's because we have built trust before COVID. So by the time COVID hit, they were asking, when do you come to us and ask questions? So we appreciate that. We appreciate the trust. And this is just another opportunity to have Ballroom come in and educate us about what you all do, how you want to get services, how do you get services, what resources have you been doing, and what resources can we help you continue to do. So this is us, again, putting our olive branch and saying, hey, what can we do to help you? And the theme for our year, this year, under Wakanda Wellness Week, which is Health Connections Incorporated, Milwaukee Black Grassroots Network of Health Equity, and Milwaukee Wellness Collective. And the three of us have a collective that we call, under that we do Wakanda Wellness Week. And during Wakanda Wellness Week for this year, our theme is cultural healing and civic engagement. So when I ask you a question later on about when you hear those words, what that means to you, and before I can tell you what it means to us. But this is under a series of events that we're going to have that start, and this is a kickoff, which I'm so excited about. That this is part of our cultural healing. So and we owe each other to heal. And so what does that look like? So we're going to start off with this video that was sent to me. It's a TED Talk, and I imagine someone knows who these people are in these videos. I sent this video to several people that were like, when you say ballroom, what do you mean? And I sent this video and they were like, oh, I didn't know that's what happened in ballroom. They didn't understand how it started, what it's about, things like that. So I'm excited that you all chose today to come here today and be a part of this discussion. It's very important that we understand, because just like any other community, you can't help if you don't understand, and you can't help if you're not invited. So I do not take that lightly. So I appreciate you all inviting us to be a part of your world, and for you to be able to educate us in a way so we can help you. So I look forward to you having a good time here. Please make sure you eat the food. It's paid for. Make sure you eat this food, and make sure that you have a good time and connect with someone in this room that you haven't connected with before. So I would welcome the legends and the leaders in Ballroom after we get done with this video. Okay? Thank you.
So let's start with a little story. This is Angel. It's 1983. Angel's 13 years old. Angel's been feeling a little different about himself lately. He's starting to have certain feelings for certain people he shouldn't have feelings for. So Angel does what we always instruct our students to do. Angel goes to school and talks to his teacher and his guidance counselor. And said, you know what? These feelings aren't really out the ordinary. Talk to your parents. They should know about this and they should support you in this. So Angel gets the courage and says, today's the day I'm going to do it. So Angel comes home and waits for his mom and dad to get home from work. And he gets there and says, Mom and Dad, I need to talk to you about something. And it sounded real serious because his voice got real deep. So his dad put the table down and said, what's wrong, son? And he says, Dad, Mom, I think I'm gay. His mom immediately starts crying. And then his dad ruffles the paper again and moves the paper off his lap and says, son, what do you mean? He said, well, I know I'm gay, Dad, I'm gay. And so his dad says, I'm going to ask you one more time, son. And after I ask you, you're going to have two options. One, you're going to tell me if you are gay. And if you say you are, the second option is you're going to pack a book bag and leave my house now. So Angel looks at his father and says, Father, I am gay. His dad said, well, get everything that you bought and put in your book bag and leave. So Angel's 13 years old, so he can't get a job. He hasn't had no money, so the only thing he really put in his book bag was a toothbrush. And Angel left. So the only place Angel knew to go was where he heard a lot of young gay black Latino youth were going in New York at the time, which was called the famous Pier. So Angel found enough money in his pockets and took a train to the pier, and Angel is at the pier now. So Angel lives on the benches, and he's learned from some of the other kids, the runaways and the homeless kids there, how to survive. He's learned to sleep on the bench and only put everything on him that he needs and make sure that when someone touches the bench that he jumps up. He's learned to defend himself. He's only been here 5 days, and he's really street smart now. The one thing that Angel did see was that in this pier, there was a lot of young people following different people around. They were grouped together, and he was trying to figure out how they found this connectivity amongst each other. How can I be like that? One day, Angel had found some money. He was panhandling, got some money, was eating a hamburger, and this woman walked past him, and she said, child, what you doing out here? And Angel's now been out there 2 weeks, so now he really knows how to be street smart, and said, what's it to you? Because the defense mechanism tells you that when they ask you something, they want something. And she said, oh, you're a sassy one. He said, well, yeah, what's up? What's good? She said, well, why are you out here? He said, why you think I'm out here? So this went back and forth, and she was amused by his ability to keep on his feet. And then there's some other young people ran up behind her and started calling her mother and said, Mom, are you ready to go? And he looked at her, and he said, oh, these your kids? She said, yes, these are my kids. This is my house. And he said, well, what's a house? And she said, well, follow me, and I'll show you. That was his introduction into the house and ballroom world. So what is house and ballroom? House and ballroom has existed under our noses for about 35 to 40 years. We can trace it back to the Harlem Renaissance of the 1920s. It was a culture that evolved out of the Harlem drag scene. Around 1970, the house and ballroom became a voice for individuals who were disenfranchised, rejected, and dejected from their family homes. These individuals found one another and became marginalized together. They found one another and connected together to become a unified voice. For many people in the house and ballroom scene, the houses became who they were. So physically, what happened, like an Angel story, somebody became a mother figure or leader. And this person became the father or the mother and collected children around them or her and provided a safe space for them, a safe space that their biological parents should have provided for them. And so they taught them different things. And when they formed these spaces, they said, we need to have a name, a family name. And so some of these houses started forming names like Pendavis and LaBeija and Ebony and Laven. And these names became something they were proud of. Much like my last name was Murray, they're very proud of their last names. And then from the names they came proud of, then they started figuring out how to express ourselves. And the expression of the house culture became the ballroom, which was between the houses would compete against one another, trying to find out who was the best one at that time. Again, this culture has existed under our noses for 40 years. So if house is the physical unity of the family formed, then ballroom would be the competition in the culture. We'll watch this little video. Take a big look at it. Yes, it's me. And that's a little too laughing. Y'all tried it. But no, that's me. I heard an extra giggle. Don't do that. He's still cute. 20 years ago or so, I'm not gonna tell my age, 20-something years ago. And this was me, about 1920, didn't know who I was. My story is not Angel's story. Someone asked me earlier, was that like asking for a friend? No. My story wasn't like Angel's. My story is a little unique in that I had a family who loved me and accepted me. I didn't know how I could love myself. Being raised in a church and being an in-closet gay man, a young gay man, I didn't know that the gayness that I had, that my family would accept it. They did. But at this time here, I didn't know. I lived in a homeless shelter. I thought about killing myself several times. I had no direction, and somewhere around 19-something, not going to tell you, 1990-something, I found House and Ballroom. House and Ballroom kind of created the man you see before you. Now, 20-something years later, I'm a social worker. I work at a major company, have my own consulting company, and I teach other young people how to find their own voices in and outside the ballroom scene. Thank you. So if I had to come up with one word to summarize ballroom for my life, I could say ballroom saved my life. It created a courageous advocate. It created a confident man that you see before you. I went from this, and I think at this time I was living at a homeless shelter, to someone who's on front of the stage with you at TED Talk. So let's talk about why this matters. Like I said before, ballroom has been influential in our pop culture for the last probably 30, 40 years. We've been on the cusp and just behind every movement that's happened, from our pop stars to the way we've dressed, to the way we've danced, to the way we talk. We've been in every infiltrated part there. But we've been there just enough that we were not noticed. Our invisibility became a factor for us. When I first started in ballroom wasn't something that you bragged and talked about. It wasn't until probably the last 15 years that people appreciated who we were. And then we find out in recent years that people who are a part of the house and ballroom scene has become the influencers of pop culture. We are the cuffs of what we do. When we say certain phrases are followed, we hear it on television. When we dress certain ways, people talk to us about it. What matters for this here is that we've sometimes overlooked this population, and when populations are overlooked, they develop their own systems. And so now as we're developing our own system, these systems are kind of colliding, and it's time for our voices to be heard. All right. So now here's the thing that I know you all know about. It's voguing, right? But this you didn't know it came from us. No. What you thought, Madonna did it in 1993? And that's where it popped out? No. Voguing became our art form that we were allowed to exist in mainstream. And it became the way we expressed ourselves and our talents. And it became the way we created our dance moves. So voguing came from the House and Ballroom from 1971, but we just never got credit for it probably until 2018. So one thing about voguing that expresses our culture and allows us to exist is that once we know that language allows a culture to exist, there was a language of voguing. The movements tell a story. Is that once we know that language allows a culture to exist, there was a language of voguing. The movements tell a story.